started feeling like rather than trying to impress everybody above me,
Right.
why don't I, start trying to do something that's going to help people coming behind me? The actions, what you choose to do the minute you get into that community, that's culture. The things that you talk about or email out, I call those culture artifacts.
Right.
They're just things you hang on the wall.
That's hilarious. That's. Hey everyone, my name is Chris Chan, the host of the CAREpreneur show, and I got a super special guest with us today, James Lee. We are here at the Bridge the Gap Ignite conference.
Yeah, Nashville.
That's Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
And right now we're in the Dream, but I know the actual conference itself was in the Bobby, which
Yeah.
is a really, really cool hotel. And you got the penthouse suite or close to it, you know?
Yeah, they were out of hotel rooms, and I had to kind of pick what was available.
That's
But,
awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, James is actually the CEO and co-founder of Bella Groves in Texas, which is a really new and exciting kind of startup in the senior living space. But he's also got just an incredible story and his journey from, when he started in this industry to where he is today is just awesome. So I want to share that with people today. And so tell us something like, how did it all begin? Because I know there was a period of time where you were entertaining law school.
Yeah, that's right.
And then here you are taking care of our elderly population and really making a difference not only in their lives but the teams that are caring for them.
Yeah, absolutely. As you were saying that, I thought about that kind of quote about life happens while you're making other plans.
Right.
My other plans were, in part to go to law school, and so that's how I ended up in Austin, Texas. I was going to go to law school at UT, or hoping to go to school there at Texas.
Right. I know you representing today.
I happen to be wearing it.
Yeah.
But while I was busy making those plans, I took a job at a senior living community across the street from my apartment. That's the only reason I can think of that this awesome industry was introduced to me. Had I chosen another apartment complex in Austin, I would have just as easily been working for a hotel or some other place.
Right.
But the address jumped out at me on the job listing. I didn't even know what the senior living company was.
Right.
So I took a job as a concierge, and then 2 weeks later took a few positions as a caregiver, and that was it for me.
Wow.
My life changed after that.
Well, I mean, what was that experience like? I mean, I can imagine like you're setting up for law school and here you are like all of a sudden like taking care of people.
Yeah.
Was that like, I mean, because a lot of times people might be a waitress, they might go work in a restaurant, they might go work retail. So I feel like it's a totally different experience than that.
Yeah. In retrospect, I think that story is about not people feel like passion and kind of the thing that you need to do in life is something that you just need to meditate on, or like just really think about, what am I good at? What do I love? And then try to go, find a way to make money doing it. For me, it was just about paying attention and being present to life around me.
Yeah.
So I wasn't looking for senior living. A lot of people say that, but
Right.
I was paying attention when I happened to find senior living.
Yeah.
And right before I took that job, it was 2008. Market crash. Real estate burst. All of that. It was a really tough time for everybody. For me, I was in real estate appraisals.
Right.
A few years out of college, I was doing valuation work. And then 2008 happened. I'm out of a job.
Yeah. The whole world changed then.
And I was like, for no other reason than I didn't have a backup plan, I was like, let me just go to law school.
Right.
My dad would be happy about
that.
Yeah. So I started, I took my LSAT, I started applying to schools. And, when it came time to decide, like, should I commit to law school? I looked at my $8 an hour job at that time.
Right.
And I realized I love going to work there. I love the weekends because I'm about to go talk to these seniors.
Yeah.
And, I reflected back on the real estate job that I lost it for no other reason than the economy changed. Right. So I thought, why do I want to go do law school?
Yeah.
And it was that pivotal moment of life of like, this feels good, senior care, and I'll figure it out.
In that moment, did you have any idea of like what you might want to do in senior care?
It sounds crazy and audacious, but I thought, why couldn't I just work my way up and be a business leader? Maybe one day I'll be a CEO of a company.
Right.
I had that thought in my head of one day I'm going to be a go from a caregiver to a CEO,
Right.
not knowing what that path would look like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So how long, I guess, did you end up, were you a caregiver for? And then at what point in time did you kind of make that transition to that next step and stuff like that?
Yeah. What's amazing about this industry is that for me, it was a 4-year stretch in one community where I got to be a concierge, a caregiver, and then I was an activities director, and then I was a sales counselor, and then I became the sales and marketing director.
Wow, that's a lot of hats, man.
Yeah, so in 4 years, I got to kind of quickly learn a lot.
The only thing you didn't do was like cook or the chef.
I did that later as an executive director.
That's awesome.
But I had all these amazing experiences, and I got to fall in love with this from multiple angles.
Sure.
And and that's why I'm here today.
So one of the things that I just feel like you having an incredible gift in is sharing like leadership stories, and almost like being just an incredible coach and kind of like mentor to other leaders in the community.
Yeah.
So like, what does that look like when you think about that, kind of like as part of your journey, like as part of your leadership journey, as you kind of moved up the ranks or whatever you want to call them, and
it's an odd thing talking about coaching and all of that from the standpoint that I do it, because I think it's one of those things that it became apparent to me over time that the things I was saying or the things I was helping people with resonated with them. And so I almost feel more that it's a responsibility that if you feel like you have this ability to connect with people and you can help them to improve their condition or their mindset, it's a gift. So I view it more as that than like a pat on the back accolade of like, I'm a coach. But it makes it easier for other people to relate to what I do if I just call it coaching.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Now, did you like experience that in that first, like in that role, like as a sales director, or did you start experiencing that more as you kind of moved up into new roles or roles beyond that?
From the standpoint of being a coach, I think that happened after I became frustrated enough with the status quo of this industry that I love. Even through frustration, you got to love it. Otherwise, it's just bitterness, right?
100%.
So frustration has to turn deeper into love. And for me, it's probably maybe about 5 years ago where I started feeling like rather than trying to impress everybody above me, why don't I, start trying to do something that's going to help people coming behind me?
Sure.
And so I think the shift in how I saw myself in this industry kind of naturally led to trying to help other people coming up.
Right. Yeah. And so like, I guess, what was kind of the next step? I mean, you worked for that one individual location.
Yeah.
But at some point, I know you kind of made the journey to the corporate side of things. And so what did that look like?
Yeah, so when I first became a sales counselor, this was probably about 2 years into being in senior living, I attended a sales training.
Okay.
And these two amazing professionals, Mike Marlowe and Suta Hennepy, I think they're legendary sales trainers. And I attended that event and I was blown away at how they were able to tie emotional feeling to a sales skill set, to business acumen, and I thought I want to do that. I want to help other people do that.
Yeah.
And so I set a goal to become a sales trainer for this company. And several years later, I got a chance to be a sales trainer, but with Emeritus Senior Living.
Gotcha.
And
I mean, Emeritus at the time was like pretty large, right?
Yeah. Emeritus was pretty big, and I met some of the most amazing, most brilliant teammates there. I'm still friends with several of them. But that started the path to like being in corporate roles, sales training, VP of training or corporate sales director, these type of roles. Yeah.
What was the thing that you liked the most, like in those roles?
I think if I had to kind of pinpoint something, I think the thing I loved most about corporate roles was dispelling what people thought about corporate roles at the community level.
Gotcha.
So at the community level, you tend to see people come in and you see suits, you see positions, you see titles, and you think corporate is a certain way.
Right.
And I loved being able to go into communities and just go serve dinner, wash dishes, go help a resident with a care task. and almost every time it made an impact on the caregiver. So
sure, building rapport, you know.
Yeah.
Instead of it like instead of corporate being like, you know, in competition or like this like fight against the community, it's like, you know, we're all one, you know, we're together, you know.
It took me a while to honestly learn the lesson behind it. I mean, it's almost a cliche now that leaders talk about they're meant to serve their teams, right? Like everybody in a leadership position could just spout that off to you. Very few people actually do it or know what it means.
I've noticed myself, and it's like you have to make a cognitive, I mean, as you grow in an organization, you have more responsibility. I've noticed that like I got to make a conscious effort that when I walk into this building to go say hi to everybody before I walk into the office and actually have to go work on the things that I need to do.
Absolutely.
You know? But it like sometimes like, you know, it can, you know, it's like you have to be very intentional about that. Go saying hi to all your people, you know, just shaking their hand, talking to them, asking them about their family. You know, just, you know, continuing to build that rapport, you know.
That's culture, right? The actions, what you choose to do the minute you get into that community, that's culture. Right. The things that you talk about or email out, that's you know, I call those culture artifacts. Right. They're just things you hang on the wall.
That's hilarious. That's a really good point though, you know. Because are you really practicing you know what your core values actually are,
right?
You know? So I mean, that leads us to at what point, like, I mean, because I know there's probably more to this whole story, right? You know, probably, the hard part is I know the story, so I can't tell it. Like, I gotta get it from you a little bit here, but without revealing too many secrets. But how did you go from kind of in that world, a level of like maybe comfortability because you have a salary, you have stability, to, hey, I'm gonna go jump out on my own and just, you know, get my feet wet and do my own thing?
You know, Chris, I think for me, going back to something we said earlier about you reach a level of frustration, you know, with something. If you love it deeply, you feel frustrated about status quo. And I think I've seen a lot of amazing people get to that point and leave our industry, or people get to that point and kind of reinvest into this industry. And so I got to that point myself, and I thought, am I making an impact? I feel like I'm kind of just yelling into a cave and nothing's happening. But I realized I hadn't given my full measure because I hadn't started my own thing. I hadn't tried to find my own partners. I hadn't really tried to build something from the ground up. So all of that led to kind of a doubling down of, let me try to help this industry in my own way. And that's what's led to the podcast, Level Up. That's what's led to my consulting and coaching work with Bearwise, and then Bella Groves.
And then what are you most excited about? What is Bella Groves, and what do you see that future, like, what does that future look like to you?
This is a little bit like trying to describe a party you have in your head, to somebody. But I'll try to do my best. So Bella Groves for me is it's the fruition of a thought I've had for a long time, that senior living is a service, not a place.
Gotcha.
The most valuable thing that you and I have is our know-how. Like what we know how to do in terms of providing care for seniors, coordinating services for seniors, helping families, counsel them through a dementia diagnosis. That's what's valuable, not bedrooms and meals. So Bella Groves, what it is, it's a dementia care company based in San Antonio. We're opening up a physical 32-bed location in North San Antonio. But the exciting part is the coaching services that we're going to do outside of that. So my own grandmother had Alzheimer's, and my family couldn't have afforded to live in most of the communities I've worked at. And that is a disservice to our neighbors, our community. So our team at Bella Groves, our goal is to make San Antonio a safe haven for people with dementia. So that means we're going to go work with restaurants and libraries and doctors' offices, help them to learn about dementia. So that they can remain dementia-friendly settings where people with dementia can still go participate in the community.
And in order to like educate them or teach them, like what kind of tools are you giving them, or like what's a practical example of like how you're helping them?
So I think even the simplest thing about being able to define what type of dementia they have. A lot of people, when they get a diagnosis of vascular dementia, could not, in lay terms, differentiate vascular dementia from Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. And I think just simple basic knowledge about, this is the type of dementia your loved one has. Here's what it looks like for most people. basic education, right? Building blocks of language, and then skill sets like when is it appropriate for somebody with Parkinson's to have weighted utensils to help them eat, right? Practical 5-10 minute training videos, having a dementia coach available that you can call and just have a lifeline of like, hey, mom did this thing and she's never done that before. Having somebody to be able to call and talk to about that knows you and your mom. How valuable would that be?
Yeah, 100%. So really it's kind of like two parts. Like, you know, like there's the actual physical structure, a building where you're actually taking care of people in a community, and then you're also kind of like taking the practices that you have in that environment and sharing that with, like, you know, like a family caregiver, like an adult child or a spouse, and helping them in that journey. Is that
we're helping families to be better caregivers at home, right? The fact that we're starting with a 32-bed dementia care community, it's almost incidental because what we need is a hub of services. Right? So I foresee that there's a future state of our company where we stop opening up dementia care facilities and communities because we've helped people earlier in their dementia journey to be more successful at home. Right? I mean, in a way, we're working to cannibalize our current business model. Right. Because the goal is help people at home.
But I think the thing is too is that, like, you know, when you think about the industry, or like the future, you know, there's such a high cost to care. That I feel like you're gonna see more and more where like we almost like by default have to go to a care model where family caregivers are picking up more of the responsibility of taking care of their loved ones, just for the sake of saving money and you know, and trying to like help make it work. You know, because I can't, like, not everyone's gonna be like, all right, hey mom, I'm taking you to the community on the street, and you know, you got $8,000 a month. Like, this is not gonna like fly for every American. You know?
Well,
like,
think about it this way, that with dementia care, it's probably the only ailment, disease diagnosis that you're going to get where you're going to suffer for a long time on your own and then finally get help at the very end of it.
Right. Where everyone's like kind of in denial initially. You know, mom's fine until there's an incident. Like, you know, she falls or, you know, like wrecks the car or something happens, and, you know, and then there's like, now they get involved. But it's like, if we would have gotten a little bit more involved a year ago or 2 years ago, maybe I could have delayed this, or maybe there wouldn't have been an emergency or something.
I think that denial that families feel is not because of an emotional deficiency or anything. It's because they don't have easy to access knowledge.
They don't know. They don't training. Like, if
they have it, they can kind of move past denial.
They can spot that, you know. Because I think you're right. Because like when we see it, sometimes we're like, oh, you know, when we recognize those patterns where they might share the same story over and over, or we ask them what they had for lunch and they say something, but it's the wrong item, and you're like, like this, like, you know, you almost can't tell on the surface, but you know, like maybe deep down that like there is something, like they're not able to connect all of those dots.
Totally.
Or, you know, the memory's starting to slip, you know.
So as an example of that, if you are at a community and somebody who, you know, they lost their loved one, their spouse, asked you, hey, where's Jim? Right. You intuitively know, like, let me just kind of go with this, right? You're not correcting them. But family members don't know that.
No, they're like, mom, don't you know? Like, Jim, like, he moved 4 years ago. You know, it's like, whoa, like, look, just play along with Jim. You know,
multiply that by 1,000 interactions every week. And you can quickly see why this is a debilitating issue for families.
100%. And I forget, I don't know what the stats are, but I know there's an incredible stat that talks about the number of family caregivers taking care of a loved one across the country. You know, they always talk about that unpaid caregiver. And you know, it's just like mind-boggling when you think about how many people are going through that. You know? So
well, that's what we're excited about with Bella Groves, is that we're trying to solve the problem, not just sell our solution. You know, the senior living model has a very specific solution that has been built, and we just sell it over and over. But, you know, selling a solution is not the same thing as caring about a problem.
So I got 3 things for you. All right. So like 3 quick questions. To kind of wrap it up here. I appreciate you sharing your story. I love what you're doing.
Thanks.
So number 1, so what did you think of the Ignite conference?
Oh man, I gotta give a quick answer for this. So what I loved about the Ignite conference was that it really shook up the format of our industry conferences. And you know, for their first one out of the gate, this was like stellar, right?
Impressive.
My first version of this would have been crap.
Yeah.
So I love that they changed the format of it. The entire goal of this was not to like hear the same topics over and over.
Experiential.
It was it was meant to change our perspective.
Right.
Not here's the new policy coming out or here's what we're doing for sales.
Right.
It's
what's the next shiny sales figure,
exactly,
gimmick or whatever,
yeah. So I love that they focused on introspect and sharing stories and building trust, and I thought they did a great job with that.
It's awesome. So the other one would be what is your favorite book, and then if you have a favorite quote or a favorite teaching.
It's hard to nail down a favorite book because I cycle through books and I come back to books a lot. I'll tell you right now, I'm rereading Originals from Adam Grant, and I'm kind of also reading Think Again, which is also from Adam Grant. Love his stuff. He's an organizational psychologist. So Originals, I think if you haven't read it, you should read it.
I want to.
It's gonna speak to you. It's about how to like not conform with kind of status quo around you, but how to do it in a way where you're not just an obnoxious soapbox guy.
Right. Absolutely. And I love that. So it's called Originals by Adam Grant.
Originals,
right? And then do you have a favorite like teaching or a favorite like leadership principle that you like to share with others or that could inspire others? So
what I use now to lead people on my teams, I've kind of created like my own basic leadership model and some things that I teach internally to the team. And on the surface, it looks like James Lee made it up, but James Lee didn't make it up. There's like 1,000 people who influenced me to like teach me this little bit, this little bit. And it was on me to take all of that and synthesize it in a way where it makes sense to me.
Right.
So when I talk about like my MBAR leadership model, it's not something I made up. It's 1,000 people that helped me get that insight.
Right.
So I don't think I have any one, but I have a lot of people that have contributed to that.
Awesome.
And it just kind of refines year over year.
It's awesome, man. I love it, man. I love what you're doing. So excited for you.
Thanks.
Excited to see Bella Groves as it comes to completion as far as the building is concerned, as well as you guys launch and share your training tools and coaching program and all that stuff. So
well, I'm excited about what you're doing. I know you're interviewing me and doing all this stuff with guests on this side, but I really connected with you're doing things very differently for our industry, and even this right now, it's so different from what people are used to, and I don't know when the payoff of all of this is going to be.
I have no idea, man. It's a long-term investment, brother.
It's a long-term investment.
My goal is like if we could inspire just one person today that
it will,
comes across this video, sees your story. Yeah. They're like, hey, I think, I want to do something that makes a difference in people's lives. And all of a sudden Senior Care is that vehicle for them, and they can come in here and make changes and make things better for that industry. Like I'm excited for that. I love to inspire. I like the coolest part about this whole conference is seeing 30-something-year-olds like running senior care organizations, starting their own, leading teams. Like that's awesome. Like
that's amazing.
How many 30-something-year-olds out there like are actually really care about senior care?
I'm 38 myself.
I know, it's awesome. It's awesome.
This is an amazing industry. Come
you guys, I know. Come join us, man. It's not your typical. It's not what you think of when you think of a nursing home. I mean, there's so much opportunity. There's so many changes to be made, and so many exciting things going on. So I appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
And it was great to connect in Nashville. And for all you guys watching, make sure you tune in and subscribe, like, comment, share. Go check out Bella Groves in Texas if you can. And thanks for joining us on the show today.
Yeah.
See y'all later.
Bye.
I thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this video. You guys are awesome. If you'd like to watch last week's episode, make sure you click here. If you'd like to watch more fun and exciting episodes on Senior Care, click here. And if you'd like to learn more, stay in touch. Go to chrischana.com for the latest tips in the senior care business for the entrepreneurial spirited person that loves seniors and business. Thank you guys so much for joining. Have a great day, and let's get back to work.